Live. We're going to be talking to Jamie Gamache from Lowkey Films. We're going to be talking a little bit about how Lowkey Films has become a corporation that's actually certified as an AB Corp. So we are going to be talking to him a little bit about how we can make projects that essentially can make a difference, and it's not just about the money. But he'll be going into a bit deeper. Anyone who's just joined, hello, welcome. We're going to be talking to Jamie Gamache from Lowkey Films, the founder, and we're going to be talking a little bit about how we can make a difference and how Lowkey Films is making a difference with the projects they're working on as they've become a certified AB corporation. So I'm going to invite him in, and remember, if anyone has any questions about filmmaking or anything like that that you want to ask Jamie or myself or anyone in the chat that you just want to throw in, feel free. This is an open conversation and it's the best time to learn something. So I'm going to go ahead and invite in Jamie. Because we are a family over here. Cool. For anyone that's just joined, hey!
Hello. Sorry, I'm by a tree.
I feel like that's very fitting for this conversation.
Yes. Well, I'm in a church garden. So the church maybe less so, but the tree more so.
Right, so we're going to jump straight in. So welcome, anyone who doesn't know, this is Jamie Gamache, who is the founder, and essentially
Co-founder.
the co-founder. And I want to talk to you a little bit about, you guys becoming essentially AB Corp certified company. And I just want to, just throw out, what does that mean to anyone who has no idea what that means?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, becoming a B Corp, we're joining. So the UK has the largest community of B Corps in the world. There's about 2,000 companies that have joined the movement already. And it's basically a commitment to using business as a force for good. So I guess the biggest thing that you do is you actually change your articles of association as a company. So there's like a legal process that you have to go through, which means that the business has to act in the interest of all stakeholders. So our stakeholders are our clients, our employees, the environment, and our local community, rather than just act in the interest of your shareholders, which is what business is normally set up for. So I guess that's kind of like the fundamental principle, but it's shaped so many of the different ways that we work. And yeah, the B Corp process, I mean, I could spend 2 or 3 hours. There's probably TED Talks on the whole B Corp process and what it means. But I think in a nutshell, that's probably it.
But if you had to, I guess, because we don't have 10 hours,
Yeah,
if you had to condense down what sort of why Lowkey Films wanted to go in this direction, particularly
yeah.
because Lowkey Films, like, you guys have worked with like really big names. You've worked with, with Peloton. You've worked with really big companies. So what made you, like, you guys want to go in this direction?
I mean, it's always been something that we've done and like stood for. I mean, when Connor and I started Lowkey, it was very much because when we first came in, I mean, Connor and I met in a band way back in the day, and we've actually just done a piece with LBB, kind of talking about all of this. But when we decided that we wanted to start making films, our dream was to be in the film industry, and we'd kind of grown up watching behind the scenes and thinking it was this dreamlike place. And then when we actually got there, the expectation for overworking, the toxic, this was kind of pre-Me Too, the toxic behavior was a bit shocking and was definitely not what we expected and wasn't a place where we saw ourselves. So it was either leave the film industry, pick, a different direction, or it was naively at the time as to sort of early 20-year-olds, it was let's start our own company and do it based on the values that our mums brought us up on, and we had that before we had a business plan. So I think it's always been something that's been at the core of the company, but the B Corp side is just it like validates it. We've been saying all these things for years, and we've been doing it for years, but I guess this is our way of proving it to the people that don't know us, haven't worked with us yet.
I love that. It's very fitting, because I think a lot of us have this idea of what the industry is going to be like, and we kind of come in very sort of bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and then you slowly, I think your excitement slowly gets corroded by the reality of how everything's being ran.
Well, that's a really 100%, and that's really sad. And Connor and I talk a lot about sustainability. Is obviously we all see it as an environmental thing and tracking our carbon footprint, and there is no planet B. We've got to save this planet, but actually, sustainability is also about people, and it's about sustaining careers, preventing burnout. Particularly from a creative perspective, like you're so right. I've met so many jaded creatives who are so done with the industry. They're kind of peddling out the same, dull campaigns. I'm at Madfest today, and I've just heard that apparently dull campaigns cost brands like just under £10 million a year, and dull campaigns are made by, creatives or producers or companies who are tired of the game, who have been burnt down over the years because of the way the industry has been. And it's not just the film industry; it's the advertising world as well. And so, yeah, the reason why we do what we do is to try and preserve that zest for life, I suppose.
I think that's great, honestly. Like, I think that's amazing work because not only are you kind of like seeing the issue, you're kind of like, right, let's be the solution, let's service the solution. It's not quite like, okay, we're just going to work completely for free. This is still a business, but we can make this a better place.
Absolutely. Like, and you do, again, that's the whole point of B Corp is like, again, go back to sustainability. Sustainability is about, longevity as well. And you can't run a business. If you want to run a business for good, it has to also be making a profit, because otherwise we won't be here again in 5 years to continue fighting the good fight and making sure, we achieve these things, because they do take time to achieve. And, change always takes, time to bring people on board. So I think the profit part is really important. And again, there was a talk I was listening to yesterday that kind of speaks about purpose driven work 1.0, which was like, I think it was sort of 2019 or 2018. And it felt very much like it was a divisive thing. And it was, people were doing it as like purpose for profit. So it was like Pepsi coming on, either it was Pepsi coming on board and like greenwashing things, and it was just being sustainable to try and earn money, and there was no substance at it, or it was truly purpose-driven brands that were being incredibly vocal and divisive, which is really important in change. But then it does create a massive divide, and then actually we're not all coming together. This is an issue that's going to affect all of us when it comes to people and planet. So I think now sustainability is about bringing people forwards, and it's not about bringing people together, and not being divisive. And yeah, I do totally agree about in terms of profit as well. Like, there's been so many studies that prove that being socially minded and environmentally minded also makes businesses more profit in the long run. I'm not just talking about myself, I'm talking about our clients as well. So yeah, I think that definitely has to kind of be front of mind.
I want to. There's so many points that I want to touch on, but because we've got limited time, I'm gonna jump straight into the next bit, which I would just want to talk about how that's affected kind of like the production process, because obviously now you're being a lot more conscious minded about the kind of work that you guys do. So how has that kind of affected, maybe it could be from how you manage a production, or it could even just be the type of projects that you take on or the type of
Yeah.
pitches that you accept. Like, how has it changed in that direction?
Well, it hasn't changed. That's one thing I would say. Like, we have literally always been doing this. The B Corp side of things isn't like a new shiny badge that we're pretending that we're changing everything. Like, we've literally have been doing it since Connor and I started doing things. So I wouldn't say it's changed. In terms of like what projects do we take on, like from a commercial standpoint, we've turned down in the past 3 years three like big energy campaigns, for
Wow.
instance, and one of them was actually about sustainable. It was about like a sustainable fossil fuel, and so that was like, well, I really believe that you do have to work with the big corporations who unfortunately have made this mess that we're in to enact change, because they have so much power.
Mm.
But then actually, once you dug into this particular campaign and you looked a little bit deeper, it wasn't really doing what it was saying that it was doing. So I think you have to not double guess everything, but just look into it a little bit deeper. So definitely on that side, we will always be very careful about what we take on, because we don't want to be, I guess, part of the problem. And then on the production side, I mean, we track our carbon footprint. So we do that using AdGreen on commercials, and then Albert for, long form for feature films. And that's a really great way of, because how much your footprint is, it means that you can reduce it. If you don't track it, how on earth can you learn and get better and, all the rest of it? I mean, we also have set up, we not put it on our crews, but all of the crews we work with, when we onboard them, we send out Google Forms that we've made, which captures their data of like, where are they traveling from? So how many miles have they traveled? Are they traveling by train or by car? We then have an opt-in for meat policy, which means we push people to eat for veggie, but if they want to choose meat, we're not going to force them to eat vegetarian food, but if they want to eat meat, they have to let us know. So yeah, on the production side, there's a lot of environmental things that we're doing, and yeah, again, I could do a whole case study on that. But then on the people side, like, we really promote setting boundaries. We hate the idea of overworking. Connor and I have always, really tried to stop work at 6. And I say this, like, Monday night we were both working really late. Like, that happens sometimes. But as a company founder, it's so easy to just work all the time. And I think if you do that, it's easy in a small company for your staff to think that they have to, or your team, they think they have to do that as well. So it's always been a thing that we have set hours. We try not to work weekends because, your personal life is just as important as your work life. So yeah, lots of different ways, but hopefully that summarizes some.
That's insane, because I feel like that's anyone who's worked in a corporate company, what you said is probably like incredibly healing to like hear from a founder, because like, especially in film, there is a sort of unwritten rule and pressure that you've got to work hard, you've got to stay later, you've got to, put everything into it. And I think it's quite refreshing, and kind of refreshing and healing to hear how much like you guys at Lowkey are doing specifically, on the back end of things when it comes to actual creation of even just down to the tracking of like emissions in your production, like, which is insane. That's insane, but
I mean,
amazing.
but people think that it's a really hard thing to do. And I remember when we said that we were going to, that's what we were doing on everything. All of us were a bit daunted. We were like, God, we're already turning stuff around on, budgets are getting less and less. It is getting harder and harder to make premium content at a budget. But as soon as you just start doing it and you learn and you make mistakes, it becomes part of your process. It becomes second nature. It becomes, when you first learn to fill out a call sheet, it feels daunting. But once you've done it 100 times, it's like second nature. It's the same for, sustainability and carbon tracking. But just to go back to working late, like, I'd be a fool to say that we don't have to work late sometimes, but it's all about saving it for when there is no other choice. We've just we shot a mini documentary and a load of content for Dua Lipa's Wembley Stadium.
Amazing.
Yeah, shows last weekend. Weekend before. And it's out on Friday. The turnaround was insane. There were a lot of, late nights and a lot of long hours, but that was because we knew that was what was needed for that project. Do we do that on every project? No. And that's because, there's a time and a place for it.
Mm. No, that's amazing. I think what it sounds like you guys have done is like invested in actual people. Like, it's almost like a people first kind of company, where you're like, we know you're humans, we know you have actual lives, so we're not going to completely burn you out for the sake of money, essentially. And I think that's
Well,
great.
absolutely. And we do, we have like 360 feedback with the whole team. And when I say the whole team, we are literally just 4 people at the moment. We are growing, but we do a lot of work, but we're just, we're a small boutique team of 4 of us. And it's all about, what do you want to gain? Let's say we do a quarterly review together. The questions are a lot. What do you feel like you've not been doing over the last 3 months that you came here to do? How can we
Ooh.
make sure the next quarter is fulfilling you? Because yes, we've got to keep the lights on in the office, but how can you retain talent? We set Lowkey up to make ourselves happy, but also to make the people that we work with happy. And there is obviously a balance in that. But I do think like personal fulfillment in work is something that's really important. It's why the work from home culture has become, such a thing now. Yeah.
I literally just feel like I'm in like a therapy session, a work therapy session. No, I think that's amazing, and I think, yeah. What would you want people to? I guess what I wanted to then ask about that is, what do you think? I guess on an individual level for like filmmakers that are maybe potentially want to work with Lowkey Films, what should they be doing in their kind of practice, or what could they kind of take away in order to kind of do the same, even if it's just like a few ways that they can incorporate, maybe it's the CO2 tracking, just ways that they can incorporate into their practice when they're working with you guys or want to work with you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we look for, like, if it's about working with us, I don't think we look for the fact that, someone is or isn't tracking their carbon, or a director that's really passionate about the environment. What's great about, what I really hope is great about Lowkey, and what we always try and do, is instill our values in anyone that we work with and try and inspire. And it's not about preaching to the converted. It's actually about working with those who aren't maybe already doing it and helping to inspire them. In terms of like, how can you get started with thinking more, environmentally, I think it, again, is just do it. Like when Connor and I first made our short films, people would be like, oh, how do you get a short film financed? Or how do you get, Stormzy's just shot a short film on an iPhone. Yes, they had a load of expensive lenses and on the front of it, and there's Stuart Bentley as a DP and all the rest of it, but it looks amazing. We didn't have that. I sound really old now, and we're not that old, but like, the iPhone wasn't great when we started making films, but now you can just pick up an iPhone and make a film and edit it together. Like, the barrier to entry is much less. And similarly, I'd say with, environmental, Add Green, the carbon calculator, it's free. It doesn't cost anything. Do it on a small project. If you're a videographer and it's just you, track your train journey, track how many hard drives you buy, what food did you take, put that into the carbon calculator. Like, the calculator is great because it uses benchmarks as well. So you can put your postcode in and it'll tell you how much your CO2. It sounds like it's a bigger thing than it is. So I'd just say, get stuck in, make some mistakes. Yeah. And was there a question like, if you want to work with Lowkey?
Yeah, if people wanted to work with Lowkey.
Yeah, just honestly, like, the way Connor and I started, we had no links to the film industry, no family in the industry. We didn't go to film school. We had no idea. So we started off badgering people on the emails, making sure that we wrote personal emails that actually would connect with, we get tons of emails a day, and we used to try and reply to all of them, and then we weren't actually doing the work that we were supposed to be doing. But when I started, I probably had to chase people 4 or 5 times sometimes. And I'll admit, sometimes it takes on a cold email someone to chase that many times for us to reply. Is that right? No, but is that just the reality of running a business? And yes. And so I think it's just persistence, and I think it's about having something to say. So anyone can create great work, but not everyone has their own like personal story. And the thing I'm really interested in when I connect with creatives or directors is like, what's your story? Not what's your life story, but like, why are you doing this? What makes you get out of bed every morning?
What's your why?
Yeah, that's what I care about more than anything, because that's what I can connect with on a personal level down the pub, or in the church garden, which is where I am now. The work can come later.
So we've actually got a question from Caroline. What would you most like to see? What would you like to see change in the commercial production? In commercial production.
Um, I do think there are lots of companies that are acting more sustainably. Like, I do truly think that that's becoming more of a thing. I do think attitudes towards deadlines, and I wish there was more planning, is what I would say. I think production becomes such an afterthought that we're left to the last minute once the brief is signed off, the script is signed off, then we've not had a chance to feed into the process, and then, oh, we've got a week to get it into production, and then can we deliver it yesterday? And that's the pressures that everything's possible, but that's what puts pressures on teams. That's what causes burnout. That's what causes people to quit the industry. We are seeing, particularly in the feature film industry a max exodus of talent at the moment because a lot of
Mm,
the work has dried up off the back of the strikes. And I think people are like, well, look, if there's not the work and I'm not getting paid for it, it ain't worth, some of the crap that I have to take. So I do think planning and commercial production and production companies being part of the process from an earlier perspective, from an earlier point, would help to
mhm.
prevent, some of those bottlenecks.
No, I completely agree, and I think it's literally what you're talking about in terms of the it's not put that it feeds into that same cycle and that same system of not putting people first when you get a call and it's like, hey, can you deliver this amazing, this high production thing tomorrow, and you're like, no, it's not physically possible unless we all become robots today.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and which is a whole nother conversation,
Literally.
isn't it?
That is. Also, if anyone's got any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Um, and yeah, where what a question I wanted to ask is, where do you see Loki going with this, and kind of in the direction that you wanna take Loki films?
So what we're not like we don't only work on like purpose driven or social impact projects. We love those, don't get me wrong, but there are lots of agencies out there that do that. They only do purpose driven work. Our whole thing is always making sure that what we do behind the lens is purpose driven. But in saying that, obviously I love working on, projects where there is a real, impact part to it. So I do really want to do more work in that space. And, I won't say anything about it. We're doing some work with Lego at the moment that definitely has that, angle to it. My cousin's just asked who's your favourite cousin. That's hilarious.
Imagine if
I
it's not her. Oh,
Well, no, I can't answer that because Boxing Day would be Christmas. Boxing Day would never be the same again. The family rift would be, yeah. Um, I I've now lost my train of thought, and Heidi's going to feel
we were
really
talking
bad.
a little bit about you were quite even though Loki Films doesn't just do purpose driven films, you
Yes, thank
guys
you. Yeah,
also,
yeah.
yeah.
But you can always do the purpose and the impact behind the camera,
Mm,
and so that's what we'll always continue doing. But I would love to do more impact work, and that doesn't have to be with charities necessarily. I want to work with brands who really want to make a difference and push back on all the rubbish that's coming out of the US at the moment, and with Trump and his DEI backtracks and pulling out of climate conventions left, right, and centre. So I want brands to really kind of stand up for what they believe in, and then we just want to keep making more feature films. We've made one documentary and two narrative features now, and we love doing it. We're shooting another one called Arctic Skies in December, and that is really our passion. So keep doing that, and then continuing to bridge the two. Like, how do we make long form content in the branded space? And that's something we're really excited by too.
cool, amazing. I think I'm quite excited to see where Lowkey Films goes with that, because I just completely kind of resonate with the kind of that ethos. What I wanted to do was kind of like round things up with kind of like a last kind of message to what you feel like I guess creators and other directors or filmmakers out there need to kind of like hear from your perspective, because I feel like everybody that's in the filmmaking space usually has like their personal ethos and their kind of message. And just because we're in a very particular time with like filmmaking and kind of creation at the moment, is there any sort of like words of wisdom or kind of like, I guess, statement you want to make to creatives in general? So that was a long that was a and I've set you up. I've set you up. But I was just saying, speak from the heart.
I just always stay true to like who you are and what you believe in. I think don't forget where you came from. I think people think in like business and in life you've got to be tough and hard and rude to win over clients and win business decisions, and you watch The Apprentice, and it's just such rubbish, and I don't think there's anyone in this world that genuinely is brought up to believe that that is really the way to act. But I think the media tells us otherwise. So I just think when you get to a position where you have any kind of influence or any way of, managing things. And even before then, it's just staying true to who you are and not feeling the external pressures, because I think that's where everything ultimately goes wrong. I'm getting so much. All 12 people here are, my fan club that I've paid.
Well, I'm gonna round this up. Thank you so much, Jamie, because honestly, like I feel like talking to you has been literally like a healing moment, knowing that there are companies out there that are trying to make a difference in the industry, not just in front and sort of superficially, but actually trying to, well, actually doing it behind the scenes and backing it up. So thank you so much, and I'm sure all of the people that joined this live have walked away feeling a bit lighter about the working future. So thank you so much.
Thanks. And thanks, Martin, you stranger. Love you. All
Just
right.
for
Cheers,
anyone,
Curtis.
thank you so
I really
much.
appreciate
Anyone,
it.
thank you. Anyone watching this live will be available on the Instagram profile and also on the the Shiny Instagram profile and also the Shiny website. So thank you so much, Jamie, and I'll
Cheers,
see you soon.
Curtis. See you soon, buddy. Thanks. Bye.